It may not happen in that form, but the Democrat leadership is like, you know what? The Democrat leadership is going to be looking at that dollar. Oh, you better believe they're going to quickly get on their knees and open their mouths wide, because that's what they're going to do. Okay. They're going to be like, it's going to be like so easy. It's like, what? They're going to do that. They're going to do it. They're going to do it, man. They're going to do it. But now let's move on to our next segment of the day. All right. So New York City. That's right. New York City. Oh, my goodness. The home of New Dissidents, the home of Jose Vega, home of Larry Sharp, home of the No Sound Bites podcast. New York City, man, you are going to be in a hell of a show for a primary, man. I can't wait to see how it plays out, because Eric Adams and Cuomo are also potentially running as third-party independent candidates. Isn't that special? Because the Democrat primary, it looks like it's intensifying between Zohran and Cuomo. So perhaps maybe Cuomo might not have it in the bag. Now, for most part, I'm going to agree with Larry Sharp's analysis, however depressing it might be, and that is maybe Cuomo does have it in the bag. I hope. Listen, New York City, people in New York City, look, we have our pizza wars, right? And look, I've nothing but love for my New York people on the left and right. But you guys are better than this. You guys are better than this. You are. Always have been. Are you seriously going to let Cuomo be your mayor? Really? Come on. You're better than this. You are,
Although it's a local race, the New York City Democratic mayoral primary has at times been a litmus test of sorts for the Democratic Party at large. And this one is shaping up to be exactly that. Right now, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo is considered the front-runner among a field of 9 Democratic candidates. But closing the gap behind him is Zohran Mamdani, a 33-year-old New York State Assemblyman who is a self-described Democratic socialist who touts a whole range of progressive policies like free buses, a freeze on rental increases, and opening city-run grocery stores, and paying for it by raising taxes on corporations and the city's wealthiest residents. But Mamdani is also not shying away from an even bigger fight, should he win, the fight against a former New York City resident who now resides in the White House.
So I don't think there's any question that there's any mayor here that will be free from being attacked by Donald Trump. What's more important, however, is that we have a mayor who will actually fight back. And that's what I will do. I am Donald Trump's worst nightmare as a progressive Muslim immigrant who actually fights for the things that I believe in.
That was Mamdani last night during the mayoral debate, primary debate, and his performance at the debate appears to have paid off. Today, Mamdani scored a major and much coveted endorsement from Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Joining me now is Democratic New York State Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, who is running to become the next mayor of New York City. So let me just start.
So this is going to be very interesting because again, I remember saying this on the show. We did a couple segments talking about this election. People with name recognition usually do win, and those that have the most money usually do win. But, and this is a very important caveat that people need to take a step back to and realize, things can change, and people automatically can have a memory jolt. Like, wait a minute, Cuomo was governor. Wait a minute. Those senior citizens who died in those old folks' homes. Wait a minute. There were women who came forward about these accusations. Wait a minute. Cuomo might not be this good guy after all. He's not your kind of guy. So there could be a shift. And if that happens, it's probably the biggest upset in the primary. We will see. Again, polling data can be wrong.
You're in the middle of the race. You got less than 2 weeks to go. Your opponent and the current frontrunner in the race, Andrew Cuomo, said Trump would go through you like a hot knife through butter. He kind of came at you aggressively, which means he must be a little worried. Your response was that, and we just played part of this, that you were Trump's worst nightmare. Tell us why. What's your plan if you were elected, and how you would engage with or deal with Trump in the White House? Because every New York City mayor has to.
I would actually turn the page on what we've seen right now, which is the cowardice on display from Andrew Cuomo. And ultimately, it's cowardice which makes sense given the fact that his super PAC is funded in large part by many of the same billionaires who put Donald Trump in the White House. My campaign, which has now placed me in second place, is one that has been funded by 20,000 people giving an average donation of around $84, which has broken fundraising records in our city, and is one that leaves me confident to say that I will fight the Trump administration and the authoritarianism coming out of Washington, D.C., and I will fight it because it threatens our city's values, its laws, and its people.
You are a proud progressive, a self-described socialist. I just mentioned the AOC endorsement, which a lot of people would want. But you need people who don't identify as either of those to win. So how are you going to build your coalition beyond those?
Well, I think it comes back to what Mayor Koch told us all those decades ago, which is that if you agree with me on 9 out of 12 issues, vote for me. 12.
We'll see what happens. Again, follow through is key. You know, Brandon Johnson ran on a progressive platform too, and he never followed through with anything. Plus, I've always felt that he was not going to follow through. Again, my thoughts on the Chicago election in 2023 is a whole other matter altogether. But it is what it is. And New York City, I'm not expecting anything different unless it truly is a miracle by miracle. I don't know. Maybe he does follow through. Maybe he does do things. And Wassam, you're absolutely correct. That is why Cuomo and Adams started third parties in mayoral elections, because it is an easy way out. And in turn, by the way, just because they run as a third party, you think they're going to remove that D from their neck? Oh, no. They're going to keep that D on their neck, on their face, inside them too. It's just, and this is how third parties get discredited. When you have corporate neoliberal Democrats try and create something, right? And then hijack the third party movement.
12 out of 12, see a psychiatrist. Because ultimately, this is a campaign that is focused on one thing, affordability. We're living in the most expensive city in the United States of America, and working and middle-class New Yorkers, the ones who've built this city, out of it. And what I'm asking New Yorkers is to join a movement that will actually make this city affordable, and will do it by freezing the rent for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants, by making the slowest buses in the country fast and free, and by delivering universal childcare to each and every New York family, whether their child is 6 weeks or 5 years of age.
One of those issues the mayor of New York City faces is ICE's widespread arrests and deportations of undocumented immigrants. We've been talking about this a little bit tonight. The current mayor has alluded to this being a federal issue and has been supportive of ICE operating in one of the city's prisons. How would your approach be different?
I would bring us back to the sanctuary city policies that have actually kept us safe. You know, these are policies.
I'm going to disagree. Listen, the sanctuary city policy was an epic disaster. All right. It always was. There was never a plan. And I understand. Why people were all on board for the sanctuary cities. I get it. Was it to make yourself feel good and look good? Or was it just a way to make some more money, to exploit people? Because at no point did these sanctuary cities really help people. All right. And in Chicago specifically, it was a complete epic disaster.
That have been in place for decades, that have been defended by Democrats and Republicans alike, and yet they are ones that the current mayor has fear-mongered about. You know, I came to this city and this country when I was 7 years old. I grew up in New York City. I fell in love with this city. I got my citizenship in this city, and that was one of the happiest days of my life, swearing in to become an American alongside so many other immigrants. And just that same location in downtown Manhattan, at Federal Plaza, is now where ICE agents pulling up masked and in unmarked cars are detaining New Yorkers, and they're throwing them away in facilities hundreds of miles away. And it's an attack on what makes so many of us proud to not only be New Yorkers, but also Americans.
You've had an impressive social media campaign. I mean, that's a part, I think you would say this too, that's kind of propelled you here. You have content in Spanish and Hindi even. What lessons would you like Democrats in all parts of the country to take away from sort of how you've propelled yourself in this race?
I would say something that's been guiding us from the beginning has been a desire to break out of the bubble of New York City politics and into the world of New York City. Because too often as politicians, we wait for voters to meet us where we are, when in fact we should be going to them. And that means changing our instinct from lecturing to listening. And, when New York State had the greatest swing of any state in the country towards Trump, 11.5 points, and we saw that swing take place far from the caricature of those Trump voters, I went into the heart of immigrant New York City in Fordham Road in the Bronx, Hillside Avenue in Queens, and I asked those voters, why did they vote for Trump, and what would it take to bring them back to the Democratic Party? And they told me it was cost of living, it was being able to afford things 4 years ago that are now out of reach, and they said they would come back if there was a relentless focus on an economic agenda. And that's the campaign I've been running, one that is focused each and every day on how to make the city affordable.
You seem remarkably awake for somebody who's been who's close to a primary election. But Zohran Mamdani, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure.
Coming up.
So here's my takeaway. Look, there's a lot of hope around elections. I get it, and I understand how people feel about elections. But I'm not expecting a lot of hope. And maybe it's because I'm so jaded with politics at this point that I'm just like, okay, well, a politician said something, and a politician said something, great. But do you have it within you to have the full follow through? You see, right now, Americans do need leaders. But Misty Winston's right. You check out her show on Due Dissidence, We're not voting our way out of it. We're going to have to fight our way out of it. And yes, that means even occasionally here and there participating in an election, but it's about really using our power, our voice, our energy. You want to know how we could use our power? I'm quoting Roger Meadows here. Citizen ballot initiatives. And you know something, New York? I'm going to challenge you. And I'm going to give a shout out to my colleagues, Due Dissidence, Jose Vega, Larry Sharp, No Sound Bites. Each of you have your own show. Each of you are doing your own things. Your state could have the potential of being a ballot initiative state. Illinois is. Illinois is one. And I think it's long overdue that the people of New York State, all across that great state, step up. And I think that the people of New York City, do deserve better. I would feel very sad if Cuomo somehow got into office because it's like more of the same. But then again, hey, who am I to talk? Chicago and Illinois have its own fair share of problems. So I guess I have to do my part too. We all have to do our part. However that election turns out, there will always be the day after. And that means fighting. And that means still being vocal. And that means still implementing our power. It's always been in our hands. Electoral politics, not so much. And I don't want to be doom and gloom saying that maybe it's over. Maybe it's over. And it could be over. Maybe this is just it, the fall of Rome. And the people are just going to be the victims of it. But we can do so much better. So we'll see how it happens for the New York primary. I am ever hopeful that the people of New York City do not support Cuomo. But then again, he's running as a third-party candidate. So once the primary is over, there's a general election. And then here we go. Chicago's got the same thing too. So maybe it'll end well. Place your bets, folks. Place your bets.